The war room was dark. Blue lights from the screens made shadows dance on the metal walls. Nara stood at the back of the room, her arms crossed, her silver eyes watching the generals argue. She was young for an officer, only 23 cycles old, but she had seen enough battles to know when fear ruled a room. And tonight fear was everywhere. "We cannot send ships to that sector," General said. His voice was loud, but Nara could hear the shake in it. "You know what waits there." "What waits there is one human," Admiral replied. She was old, her blue skin wrinkled with age, but her voice was strong. "One single human. And you want me to believe that one creature has destroyed 47 of our ships." 49 now," someone said quietly. "Two more fell last night." The room went silent. Nara had heard the stories. Everyone had. Across the galaxy, in every space station, every military base, every small colony, they whispered about him. They called him different names: the Ghost, the Reaper, the Shadow of Earth. Nobody knew his real name. Nobody knew what he looked like. The only ones who had seen his face were dead. She thought it was all nonsense. Humans were weak, everyone knew this. They came from a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no poison, no hard skin. Their bodies broke easily. They needed air to breathe, water to drink, and they could not survive in cold or heat like other species could. When they first joined the Galactic Council, many species laughed at them. How could such fragile creatures survive in space? But then the war started. The Empire attacked human colonies without warning. They thought it would be easy. They thought humans would surrender in days. Instead, humans fought back with a rage nobody expected. They were not strong, but they were smart. They were not fast, but they never stopped. They built weapons that scared even the oldest species. They created ships that moved like ghosts through space. And worst of all, they never, ever forgot an enemy. The war lasted 10 years. The Empire fell. And from the ashes of that war, stories began to spread about soldiers who did impossible things. One name rose above all others: a human who seemed to appear from nowhere, destroy everything, and vanish like smoke. Nara did not believe in ghosts. "This is fear talking," she said. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade. The generals turned to look at her. Some seemed angry that a young officer would speak. Others looked curious. "Officer Nara," Admiral said slowly, "you have something to add." Nara stepped forward. The blue light made her pale skin look almost white. "With respect, Admiral, we are giving power to a story, a legend. No single soldier, human or otherwise, can destroy 49 ships alone. It is impossible." "Then how do you explain the wreckage?" General asked. His 4 eyes narrowed at her. "How do you explain the recordings, the distress signals that end in screaming?" "Propaganda," Nara said simply. "Humans are clever, they want us afraid. They want us to jump at shadows so we make mistakes, and it is working." She looked around the room. "Look at us. We command the third largest fleet in the galaxy, and we are hiding from one human." Admiral studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled, a small, tired smile. "You are brave, Officer Nara, or perhaps foolish. I have not decided which." "I am neither," Nara replied. "I simply refuse to fear what I cannot see." The meeting ended without a decision. The generals left in silence, their fear following them like a shadow. Nara stayed behind, looking at the star map on the main screen. Somewhere out there, if the stories were true, a human was hunting ships, hunting people, making an entire galaxy afraid. She did not believe it. That night Nara returned to her small room on the station. It was simple: a bed, a desk, a window that showed the endless black of space. She sat by the window and looked at the stars. Somewhere among those tiny lights was Earth, the human. She had never been there. Few aliens had. Humans were private about their planet, protective of it in ways that seemed almost excessive. Her communicator buzzed, a message from her friend Jinnah. "Did you hear about the Ninth Fleet?" Jinnah's voice was hushed, scared. "They sent 50 ships to hunt the Ghost, 50 of our best ships, Nara." And Nara asked. 3 came back, 3. Jinna paused. The survivors are not talking. They just sit and stare at nothing. One of them keeps saying the same thing over and over. What does he say? He says he looked at me. He looked at me and smiled. Nara felt something cold move through her chest. She pushed it away. It is just fear. Fear makes people see things that are not there. Maybe, Jinna said. But Nara, what if it is real? What if there really is a human out there who can do these things? Then he is just one human, Nara said firmly, and one human can be killed. She ended the call and sat in silence. Outside her window, the stars burned cold and distant. She thought about the stories, the screaming distress signals, the ships torn apart from the inside, the survivors who lost their minds. She thought about a human who walked through armies like they were nothing. It was just a story, it had to be. But deep inside, in a place she would never admit existed, Nara felt the first small seed of doubt. What if the stories were true? What if there really was a human out there who had become something more than human? Something that the galaxy had never seen before. She shook her head and went to bed. Tomorrow she would receive her new assignment, peace negotiations with the Human Alliance. She would meet real humans, see them up close, understand what they truly were, and she would prove to herself that they were just creatures like any other. Fragile, mortal, nothing to fear. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. In her dreams she heard whispers, hundreds of voices all saying the same thing, a name she did not recognize, a name spoken with terror. She woke in darkness, her heart beating fast, the whispers fatting like smoke. She told herself it was nothing. But somewhere across the galaxy, in the cold silence of space, something moved. Something that wore a human face but carried a darkness inside that made stars seem dim. Something that had learned to be patient. Something that was coming. And it had already chosen its next destination. The same station where Nara waited, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. The human delegation arrived on a Tuesday. Nara stood in the docking bay with 30 other officers, all dressed in their best uniforms, all trying to look calm. The peace negotiations had been planned for months. Both sides wanted an end to the tension, a new beginning. But Nara could see the fear in her fellow officers' eyes. They were about to meet humans, the same species that had destroyed the Empire, the same species that produced the Ghost. The human ship was smaller than Nara expected. It was gray and simple, with no decorations or weapons visible on its surface. It looked almost harmless. But Nara had learned that humans never showed their true strength. They hid it, kept it secret, until the moment they needed it. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. Nara held her breath. The first human to step out was a woman. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back tight, and eyes that scanned the room with sharp intelligence. She wore a black uniform with silver marks on the shoulders. Behind her came 3 more humans, 2 men and another woman. They walked in a line, their faces calm, their movements controlled. And then at the back came one more. He was different from the others, smaller, quieter. He wore the same black uniform, but something about him seemed softer. His hair was messy, falling over his forehead in dark waves. His eyes were warm brown, and when he looked around the docking bay, his expression was curious, almost childlike. He was carrying a heavy bag of documents, and he struggled with its weight. Nara watched him trip slightly on the ramp. One of the other humans sighed and helped him steady himself. The small human smiled and said something that made his companion roll her eyes. This was a human soldier, Nara thought, this clumsy, gentle-looking creature. She almost laughed. The lead human stepped forward. "I am Commander," she said. Her voice was strong and clear. "We thank you for receiving us. We hope these negotiations bring peace to both our peoples." Admiral stepped forward to greet her. They exchanged formal words, shook hands in the human way, and began walking toward the conference hall. The other officers followed, pairing up with their human counterparts. Nara found herself walking beside the clumsy human. "Hello," he said. His voice was soft, almost shy. "My name is well, I carry things mostly." He lifted the heavy bag slightly. "Documents, so many documents." Nara looked at him. Up close, she could see that he was young, perhaps the same age as her if she understood human years correctly. His face had a gentle quality, with kind eyes and a small smile that seemed permanent. "I am Officer Nara," she said. "I will be assisting with the negotiations." Nara repeated as if tasting the name. "That is pretty. It sounds like a word in my language. It means country or nation." Nara did not know how to respond to that. Humans were strange, she decided. "You are a soldier?" she asked. "I suppose," said. "Though I do not feel like one most days, I am better with papers than with weapons." He laughed, a small, embarrassed sound. "The others say I should stay on the ship where it is safe, but I wanted to see your station. I have never been this far from Earth before." They walked through the wide corridors of the station. Nara noticed how looked at everything with wonder, the lights, the windows showing space, the alien officers passing by. He seemed genuinely amazed, like a child seeing snow for the first time. "Your station is beautiful," he said. "The design is so different from ours. More flowing, our ships are all angles and metal. This feels almost alive." "It is a standard military station," Nara said, confused by his reaction. "There is nothing special about it." "Everything is special if you look at it the right way," said. Then he seemed embarrassed. "Sorry, I talk too much. My mother always said my mouth runs faster than my mind." They reached the conference hall. The negotiations would begin in 1 hour. Nara was assigned to help with documents, which meant she would be working closely with. She was not sure how she felt about this. Over the next few days, they spent many hours together. Was not what Nara expected a human to be. He was kind in small ways, always offering to help carry things, always remembering how she liked her tea, always asking about her day with genuine interest. He laughed easily and often, usually at himself. He told terrible jokes that somehow made Nara smile. One evening, they were organizing documents in a small office. Nara's hands were full and she dropped a stack of papers. She cursed under her breath, such a simple mistake. "Let me help," said immediately. He knelt on the floor and began gathering the papers. His movements were careful, gentle. He handled each page like it was precious. Nara knelt beside him. "You do not have to do that," she said. "I want to," he replied. He looked up at her and smiled. "What kind of person would I be if I let you clean up alone?" She stared at him. In her world, weakness was hidden. Officers did not help each other with small tasks. It was seen as shameful, a sign that you could not handle your own duties, but acted like helping was the most natural thing in the world. "You are strange," she said finally. "I know," he agreed cheerfully, "but strange is not always bad, yes." They finished gathering the papers. As they stood, their hands touched briefly. Nara felt something warm move through her, an unfamiliar sensation that she quickly pushed away. She said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "The stories about humans, about what you did in the war with about the soldiers who became legends." She paused. "Are they true?" Smile faded slightly. His warm brown eyes grew distant for a moment, like he was looking at something far away. "Some stories are true," he said quietly. "Some are exaggerated and some—" He stopped. "Somewhat." He looked at her, and for just a second, Nara thought she saw something behind his gentle expression. Something old, something tired, something that had seen things no gentle person should see. Then it was gone, and his smile returned. "Some stories are best left as stories," he said. "The past is the past. What matters is now. What matters is that we are here, trying to make peace, trying to build something better than war." Nara wanted to ask more, but Commander called for. He gave Nara a small wave and hurried away, nearly tripping over a chair as he went. That night, Nara lay in her bed and thought about him. Was not what she imagined when she thought of humans. He was not cold or dangerous or frightening. He was warm and clumsy and kind. He made her feel safe in a way she did not understand. But something bothered her, that moment when his eyes changed, that brief second when the gentle man disappeared and something else looked out at her. What had she seen? What was he hiding behind that soft smile? She told herself it was nothing, was just a document carrier, a nobody. He probably could not hurt a fly. But deep in her heart, a small voice whispered that she was wrong, that there was more to this human than he showed, that the gentlest faces sometimes hid the darkest storms. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. In the corridor outside her room, footsteps passed silently. If she had been awake, she might have seen a shadow move past her door, a shadow that paused just for a moment before continuing into the darkness. Walked alone through the empty halls of the station. His gentle expression was gone now. His eyes were cold and focused, scanning every corner, every doorway, every possible threat. His body moved differently, not clumsy, but controlled, precise, like a predator moving through unfamiliar territory. He had sensed something wrong the moment they arrived, something hiding in the station, something dangerous. And he would find it before it could hurt anyone, before it could hurt her. The explosion came at midnight. Nara was sleeping when the world shook. She was thrown from her bed, hitting the floor hard. Alarms screamed through the station, red lights flashing in her room. She could hear shouting, running, the distant sound of weapons firing. She grabbed her sidearm and ran into the corridor. Chaos. Officers were running everywhere, some in uniform, some in sleeping clothes. Smoke filled the air. Nara could see fires burning at the end of the hall, and through the smoke, shadows moved, shadows that did not belong to her people. Raiders. She recognized them instantly. The brutal species known for attacking stations and ships, killing everyone aboard and taking everything of value. They were pirates, murderers without honor or mercy. And somehow, they had gotten inside the station. How, she whispered. A fellow officer ran past her, blood streaming from a wound on his head. They came through the cargo bay, he shouted. Someone let them in. There are hundreds of them. Hundreds against a station that was mostly asleep, mostly unprepared. This was not an attack, it was a massacre. Nara ran toward the conference hall. The human delegation was there. They would be targets, valuable hostages, or easy kills. She had to warn them. She had to find. The thought surprised her. Of all people, why did she think of him first? She pushed through the smoke, her weapon raised. Twice she saw raiders and fired at them. One fell. The other ducked behind a corner and disappeared. She kept running. The conference hall was locked. She pounded on the door. Open, it is Officer Nara, open the door. Nothing. Then slowly the door slid open. Commander stood inside, a weapon in her hand, her face hard as stone. Behind her, the other humans had gathered in a defensive position. They looked calm, too calm for people under attack. Get inside, said, quickly. Nara stepped in. The door closed behind her. She looked around the room. Where is? His jaw tightened. He left. Left where? We do not know. Looked at her fellow humans. Something passed between them, a look that Nara did not understand. He said he had something to do, then he was gone. Something to do. We are under attack. The station is full of raiders. He will be killed. The humans exchanged another look. This time one of them, a man with broad shoulders and a scar across his cheek, actually laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. The raiders should worry about themselves, he said quietly. Nara did not understand. Before she could ask what he meant, another explosion shook the station. The lights flickered. Screams echoed from somewhere nearby. We cannot stay here, said. We need to reach the escape pods. Officer Nara, do you know the way? Nara nodded. Follow me. They moved through the corridors in a tight group. Nara led, her weapon ready. The humans followed, covering each other with practiced precision. They moved like soldiers, like people who had done this many times before. Even their breathing was controlled. They reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Nara stopped. She could hear footsteps, many footsteps coming from the left corridor. Raiders, at least 20 of them, maybe more. "We cannot go that way," she said. "We will have to." She stopped. A figure stood in the left corridor, blocking the path of the approaching raiders. He was alone, unarmed, standing perfectly still in the center of the hall. The emergency lights cast red shadows across his face. It was. "What is he doing?" Nara whispered. "He will be killed. He does not even have a weapon." None of the humans moved to help him. They just watched, their expressions strange, a mixture of sadness and something else, something that looked almost like pity. But not pity for the raiders. They saw and laughed. There were at least 25 of them, all armed, all covered in blood from their killing. Their leader stepped forward, a massive creature with 4 arms and teeth like broken glass. "Look," the leader said, his voice rough and cruel. "A human, alone, unarmed." He raised his blade. "This will be easy." Did not move. He did not speak. He just looked at the raiders with those warm brown eyes, except they were not warm anymore. They were cold, empty, like staring into a void. "You have killed many people tonight," said. His voice was different, quiet, flat, without emotion. "Innocent people, people who did nothing to you." The leader laughed again. "So what? They were weak. The weak die. That is the law of the universe." Tilted his head slightly. "No," he said, "that is not the law. The law is simple." He took 1 step forward. "The strong protect the weak, and when the strong fail," his hands moved, so fast that Nara could not see what happened, "the weak must become strong." The leader of the raiders stood frozen. Then, slowly, his head slid off his shoulders and fell to the floor. Nara could not breathe. What happened next would live in her nightmares forever. Moved, that was the only word for it. He moved, not like a person, not like any living thing she had ever seen. He flowed through the raiders like water through stones. Every step was death. Every motion was precise, perfect, beautiful in a terrible way. He had no weapon and he needed none. His hands were weapons. His body was a weapon. He struck throats and hearts and spines with fingers that hit harder than any blade. Raiders fired at him, but he was never where the shots went. He twisted, ducked, spun, always moving, always killing. 25 raiders. In less than 30 seconds, 25 raiders lay dead on the floor. Stood among the bodies, not even breathing hard. His clothes had spots of blood on them, but none of it was his. He looked down at the dead raiders with no expression on his face. Then slowly, he looked up at Nara. His eyes met hers. And in that moment, Nara understood. She understood everything. All the stories, all the legends, all the whispers across the galaxy about a human who could not be stopped, who killed like a ghost, who made empires afraid. She was looking at him. She was looking at the ghost. His cold expression softened. His eyes grew warm again, gentle, kind. He walked toward the group, stepping over bodies like they were nothing. When he reached Nara, he looked at her with something like concern. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was soft again, caring. Nara could not answer. She could not move. She could only stare at this man, this gentle, clumsy man who told bad jokes and carried documents and tripped over his own feet. This man who had just killed 25 armed raiders in half a minute. "Nara," he said gently. He reached out and touched her arm. "It is okay. You are safe now. I will not let anyone hurt you." She found her voice. It came out as a whisper. "What are you?" Smile faded. He looked at her with old, tired eyes, eyes that had seen too much death, too much pain, too much horror. Eyes that carried a weight she could not imagine. "I am what they made me," he said quietly. "I am what the war needed me to be." He paused. I am sorry you had to see this. I tried to keep it hidden. I wanted you to know me as just not as. He stopped. Not as what? She whispered. Before he could answer, a guard stumbled around the corner. He saw the bodies. He saw standing among them, and his face went white with terror. That is him, the guard whispered. His voice shook with pure fear. That is the Reaper, the ghost of Andromeda. That is the human who destroyed 49 ships alone. He fell to his knees, shaking. Nara looked at the gentle man, the clumsy document carrier, the person who made her laugh and brought her tea and helped her pick up papers. The most dangerous being in the galaxy. And he was looking back at her with such sadness, such regret, such desperate hope that she might understand. Nara, he said softly, please. But she could not speak. She could only stare at the monster wearing the face of a kind man, and wonder how everything she knew had just been destroyed. The station fell silent after the attack. The raiders were dead, all of them. Some killed by station security, some by the humans defending themselves. But most, the vast majority, had fallen to one man. One human who walked through them like death itself, leaving nothing but corpses behind. Nara sat in the medical bay, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She was not injured, but someone had insisted she rest. She could not rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. She saw moving through the raiders, his hands finding throats and hearts with terrible precision. She saw the bodies falling, one after another, like leaves in autumn wind. And she saw his eyes, those warm brown eyes that turned cold as ice, those gentle eyes that became windows to something ancient and frightening. The door opened. Nara looked up. Commander entered alone. She carried 2 cups of something hot and offered one to Nara. It smelled like human coffee. Nara took it but did not drink. I know you have questions, said. She sat down across from Nara, her face tired but calm. I will answer what I can. Nara stared at her cup. Is it true? She asked. Is he really the one they call the ghost, the Reaper of Andromeda? Was quiet for a long moment, then she nodded. Yes, that is one of his names. He has many, too many. But he seemed so. Nara could not find the words. He was kind, he was clumsy, he made jokes, he helped me pick up papers. That is also who he is, said. That is not an act, is kind, he is gentle. He loves bad jokes and long walks and animals and children. He cries at sad stories. He burns food when he tries to cook. She paused. He is the most gentle person I have ever known. Then how can he also be that? Looked at her coffee. Her eyes grew distant, remembering things Nara could not see. Do you know how the war with the started? Nara nodded. Everyone knew. They attacked human colonies, killed civilians. They did more than kill, said quietly. They tortured. They experimented. They did things to human prisoners that I cannot describe, things that still wake me screaming at night, and was one of those prisoners. Nara felt something cold move through her chest. He was 19 years old, continued. A university student. He wanted to be a teacher. Can you imagine? He wanted to teach children how to read. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. They captured his colony. They took him to a facility and spent 2 years trying to break him. 2 years of pain that no living thing should ever experience. 2 years, Nara whispered. They wanted to understand humans, wanted to know our limits. They pushed him past every limit a person has. His voice hardened. But they made a mistake. They thought they were breaking him. Instead, they were creating something new, something they had never seen before, something that learned to survive anything, to endure anything, to do whatever was necessary to live one more day. And when he escaped, smiled, but it was a dark smile. When he escaped, he did not just run. He destroyed the entire facility. Every soldier, every scientist, every guard, alone, with his bare hands. Then he walked 40 miles through enemy territory to reach human lines. She paused. That was the day the ghost was born. Nara tried to imagine it. A young man who wanted to teach children, transformed by unimaginable suffering into something that made empires afraid. It seemed impossible. It seemed like a nightmare. After that, the military took him, said. They trained him more, gave him missions. He did things that won the war for us, things that nobody else could do. But every kill, every mission, every death, it cost him something. It took pieces of who he used to be. She looked at Nara with sad eyes. The kind man you met, the clumsy document carrier who makes bad jokes, that is who he is fighting to remain. Every day he fights to stay human, to not become just the ghost. Why did you bring him here? Nara asked. To peace negotiations. Because he asked to come, set down her cup. He said he was tired of war, tired of being afraid of what he might become. He wanted to do something peaceful, wanted to be around people who did not know his name, who would treat him like a normal person. She paused. He wanted to feel human again. Nara thought about all the hours she had spent with, all the conversations, all the small moments, all the times he had made her smile without trying. She thought about how happy he seemed when she talked to him, how his face lit up at simple things, how desperately he seemed to want her to like him. He wanted me to see him as, she said softly, not as the ghost. Yes, stood up, but the universe does not always let us choose who we are. Sometimes we become what we must be, whether we want to or not. She walked to the door. He is in the observation room, alone. He has not moved since the attack ended. She looked back at Nara. He is afraid that you will hate him now, that you will see only the monster and not the man. Left. Nara sat alone, holding her cold coffee, thinking about everything she had heard. The guard's words echoed in her mind. That is the Reaper, the ghost of Andromeda. That is the human who destroyed 49 ships alone. But other words echoed too. Words. Everything is special if you look at it the right way. His laugh when he tripped over a chair, his gentle hands picking up her scattered papers, his warm brown eyes when he said her name was pretty. She stood up. The observation room was dark when she entered. Only starlight came through the wide windows, painting the room in silver and shadow. Sat on the floor with his back against the wall, his knees pulled up to his chest, his arms wrapped around them. He looked small. He looked lost. He looked nothing like the creature she had seen in the corridor. He did not look up when she entered. You should go, he said. His voice was barely a whisper. You should stay away from me. Everyone should stay away from me. Nara walked across the room and sat down beside him, not close enough to touch, but close enough that he could feel she was there. She looked out at the stars. Told me, she said, about what happened to you, about how you became, what you became. Said nothing. She said you wanted to be a teacher, that you wanted to teach children to read. A sound escaped him, something between a laugh and a sob. That was a long time ago, a different life, a different person. Was it? Nara turned to look at him. When you helped me pick up papers, you handled each page like it was precious, like it mattered, like a teacher would. She paused. When you looked at the station and called it beautiful, you saw it the way someone who loves learning would, the way someone who finds wonder in everything would. That does not matter, said. You saw what I really am, you saw the monster. I saw what you can do, Nara said quietly, but I do not think that is what you are. He finally looked at her. His eyes were red, wet with tears he was trying to hold back. How can you say that? I killed 25 people tonight, without hesitation, without mercy. I felt nothing while I did it. Nothing. You felt nothing because you had to feel nothing. Because if you stopped to feel, even for a second, people would die, people you were protecting. She held his gaze. You put yourself between the raiders and everyone else. You became the monster so that others could live. That is not evil, that is sacrifice. A tear slid down his cheek. He looked away quickly, ashamed. I dream about them, he said, his voice cracked. All the people I have killed, hundreds of them, thousands, they visit me every night. They ask me why. They ask me how I could do what I did. He pressed his palms against his eyes. I do not know what to tell them. I do not know what to tell myself. Nara reached out. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand on his arm. He flinched at the touch but did not pull away. "Then do not tell them anything," she said. "Just keep trying to be. Keep trying to be the man who makes bad jokes and loves long walks and dreams of teaching children. Keep fighting to stay human." She squeezed his arm gently. "And know that you are not fighting alone." He looked at her again. His eyes were full of something she could not name, hope and fear and desperate gratitude all mixed together. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you care about someone like me?" Nara thought about the question. She thought about everything she had seen tonight, everything she had learned, everything she had felt. And she found that the answer was simpler than she expected. "Because kindness is not weakness," she said. "Because the man who helped me pick up papers deserves someone to believe in him. Because even monsters need friends." She smiled slightly. "And because I have never met anyone who made me smile by tripping over a chair." For the first time since the attack, smiled. It was small, uncertain, fragile as glass, but it was real. Outside the window, the stars continued to burn in the endless dark of space. Inside the room, two people sat together in silence, a monster learning to be human, and an officer learning that humanity was not what she thought it was. The night was long, but somehow it did not feel so dark anymore. 3 days after the attack, the station began to return to normal. Bodies were removed, damage was repaired, and the peace negotiations resumed as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Nara saw it in the way people looked at a mixture of fear and awe that followed him wherever he went. She saw it in the whispers that stopped whenever he entered a room. She saw it in the guards who moved away from him, pressing themselves against walls as he passed. They knew now, everyone knew. The human who carried documents, who smiled too much and tripped over his own feet, he was the ghost, the Reaper of Andromeda, the monster that haunted the nightmares of soldiers across the galaxy, and nothing would ever make them see him as anything else. Nara found him in the same place she always found him these days, a small garden near the medical bay where someone had planted alien flowers long ago. He sat on a bench, feeding crumbs to small birds that lived in the station. The birds did not know what he was. They did not care. They only knew that he was gentle with them, and that was enough. "The negotiations are almost finished," she said, sitting beside him. "Commander says your delegation will leave tomorrow." Nodded, he did not look at her. His eyes stayed on the birds. "Will you ever come back?" she asked. "I do not know." He threw another crumb. A small blue bird caught it in the air. "I do not know where I will go next. The military always has another mission, another target, another place that needs a monster." Nara watched the birds. They were pretty creatures, with feathers that shimmered in the artificial light. She wondered if saw them as she did, or if he saw something else, something that reminded him of beauty he thought he had lost. "What if you refused?" she asked. "What if you just stopped?" "Then someone else would have to do what I do, someone who might not be strong enough, someone who might die." He shook his head. "I became this thing so that others would not have to. If I stop, their suffering means nothing." "And your suffering?" Nara asked quietly. "Does that mean nothing?" He was silent for a long time. The birds finished their crumbs and flew away, their wings making soft sounds in the still air. When they were gone, finally looked at Nara. "I used to believe that I did not deserve to be happy," he said. "That everything I had done made happiness impossible. The blood on my hands, the lives I took, I thought they had stained my soul forever. I thought I had to suffer to pay for what I had become. And now, he looked at her with those warm brown eyes. "Now I am not so sure. You showed me something, Nara. These past few days talking with you, being around you. I remembered what it felt like to be a person. Not a weapon, not a ghost, just a person." Nara felt warmth spread through her chest. She reached out and took his hand. His fingers were rough with scars she had not noticed before, scars from battles she could not imagine, pain she could not understand. but his grip was gentle, always gentle. "I have a wound," she said suddenly. His expression changed immediately to concern. "What? Where? Why did you not say something earlier?" She smiled and showed him her arm. During the attack, she had cut it on broken glass. It was small, barely worth noticing, but she had not bothered to get it treated. Stood up immediately. "Stay here. I will get medical supplies." Before she could protest, he was gone, running toward the medical bay with the same urgency he showed in battle. She waited, smiling to herself. Even now, even knowing what he was, he dropped everything to help her with a scratch. The most dangerous man in the galaxy, worried about a small cut. He returned with bandages, antiseptic, and a focus that bordered on obsession. He knelt beside her and began cleaning the wound with such careful attention that Nara almost laughed. "You do not have to do this," she said. "It is just a small cut." "Small cuts become big problems if you ignore them," he replied seriously. "Infection, scarring, you could lose the arm." "I will not lose my arm from a scratch." "You do not know that. Alien bacteria are unpredictable. I read a report once about a soldier who—" She put her free hand on his cheek, stopping his worried rambling. He froze, looking at her with wide eyes. "I am fine. I will be fine, thank you for caring." He swallowed hard. His hands were shaking slightly as he wrapped the bandage around her arm. When he finished, he did not let go. He held her hand in both of his, looking at the bandage like it was the most important thing in the universe. "I do not know how to be normal," he said quietly. "I do not know how to be around people without scaring them. I do not know how to have conversations that are not about death or war or survival. I forgot how to be human a long time ago." "Then learn again," Nara said simply. "How?" "The same way you learn to be the ghost. One step at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time." She squeezed his hands. "And you do not have to do it alone. I am here, for whatever that is worth." He looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. It was a real smile this time, not the uncertain thing she had seen before, but something warm and genuine, something that reached his eyes and made them shine. "It is worth everything," he said. They sat together in the garden as the artificial lights dimmed to simulate evening. Nara leaned her head against his shoulder. He stiffened at first, unsure, then slowly relaxed. They did not speak. They did not need to. Some things did not require words. Finally, Nara broke the silence. "You never answered my question from before. After the attack, I asked you what you are. You said you are what they made you, but I do not think that is true." "What do you mean?" She lifted her head to look at him. "They made you a weapon, a killer, a monster, but that is not all you are. You are also kind. You are gentle. You care about small birds and old flowers and a stranger's small cut. You make terrible jokes that somehow make people smile. You see beauty in ordinary things that everyone else ignores." "Those things do not change what I have done," he said softly. "No, they do not change it, but they add to it. They show that you are more than one thing, more than just the ghost." She took his face in her hands, making him look at her. "You asked why humans are so frightening. Do you remember? You said you would answer one day." He nodded slowly. "I think I understand now," she said. "Humans are frightening because you can be gentle and terrifying at the same time. Because the same hands that kill without mercy can also bandage a stranger's wound. Because you carry your darkness and your light together always. Other species are one thing or another. Humans are everything at once." Stared at her. His eyes grew wet again, but this time he did not look away. He did not hide. "We protect what we love," he whispered. "That is what makes us frightening, not our strength, not our weapons, not our ability to survive. It is our love. Because there is nothing in the universe more dangerous than someone fighting for what they love. No wall can stop them. No army can defeat them. No pain can break them. Love makes us invincible, and that terrifies everyone who does not understand it." Nara smiled. "Is that why you saved us? why you killed those raiders because of love." He hesitated, then slowly he nodded. "I told myself it was duty, protecting the mission, defending allies, but the truth is," he paused, gathering courage. "The truth is, when I heard the explosions, my first thought was of you. I had to find you. I had to make sure you were safe. I would have torn through 1,000 raiders to reach you." Nara's heart beat faster. "You barely know me." "I know enough." He reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I know that you see me, not the ghost, not the weapon, me, and nobody has seen me in a very long time." The artificial evening deepened around them. Stars appeared in the windows above the garden, cold and distant and eternal. But in the small space between them, warmth bloomed like the alien flowers that surrounded them. "Will you come back?" Nara asked again. "After your next mission, will you find me?" Looked at the stars. He thought about all the darkness waiting for him out there, all the death, all the pain, all the endless cycle of violence that his existence had become. Then he looked at her silver eyes, her gentle smile, her hand still holding his. "Yes," he said, "I will come back. No matter how far I go, no matter what I have to do, I will find my way back to you." He smiled, and for the first time it did not look fragile. It looked certain. "Because now I have something to come back to, something to fight for, something that makes all the darkness worth surviving." Nara moved closer to him. Their foreheads touched. They breathed the same air. "Then survive," she whispered. "Survive everything they throw at you. Complete your missions. Do what you have to do, and when you are finished, come home. I will be waiting." Outside, the galaxy continued its endless dance of light and shadow. Wars were fought. Empires rose and fell. Legends were born and forgotten. But in a small garden on a forgotten station, something new began. Something that had no name yet. Something built on understanding and acceptance and the strange, impossible hope that even monsters could learn to love again. Held Nara close, feeling her warmth, her heartbeat, her life. And for the first time since his nightmare began, he did not feel like a ghost. He felt human. And that, he realized, was worth more than all the fear in the galaxy. They sat together in silence as the artificial night settled around them, two hearts beating as one, holding onto each other against the darkness. And somewhere in that darkness, the stars watched them, ancient and silent, witnesses to a truth as old as the universe itself. That love was the beginning of everything, and the end of everything. And in between, it was the only thing that mattered. The ghost had found his reason to be human again. And she had found her reason to believe that humanity was far more than she ever imagined.